Three things I'd never do. Accept bribes, huff, or use generative AI. To reiterate an increasingly popular idea, if you put me in the house, I want to go because of my own personal grievances. And I will be such a huge pain in the ass to all of these greedy bastards that you're going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy it a great deal. And if you put me in there, I think the town halls are going to start getting lit. So come and sign my petition. The most important thing for us to do in order to overcome our obstacles is to pay attention to our focus. And the other day, I was getting ready to write something about focus. I was working on something poetic about it. It was going to be amazing. And I grabbed my little notebook and my pencil, and I was about to go do it, and then I noticed a little blinking light on my phone. And I looked at the blinking light, and an old friend had sent me an audio recording, and I didn't know what it was. And so I played it for a few seconds, and then I realized he was doing a slow, sad cover of Hotel California. And I realized it was nothing important. So I was like, oh yeah, what was I doing? And I didn't remember what it was. And so I kept walking around, and I left the room and turned around 3 times and kept going to different places. And I was like, what was I going to do? And I ate a fistful of okra, and I swore a lot. And then I realized I was going to write something about focus, but I don't really remember what that is. If you saw the New York Knicks 29-point comeback against the San Antonio Spurs and you felt left out, I want you to know that you have a real opportunity here to be part of the biggest underdog comeback in history. That is, I'm 6 weeks out from getting 5,000 signatures to beat money in politics. And if you want to be part of that comeback, I'm here at Old Town Square every night, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. The internet is not made for somebody like me to reach out and talk to people or find people, because as soon as I say certain keywords, I notice that any YouTube shorts that I post get 0 views because they're not shown to anybody. But if you don't believe me, go ahead and look at the videos I posted today. I am by far the best candidate and probably the best representative you have ever had and will ever have. But one very important thing to mention, and it's a skill. I can figure out how to live very comfortably on $172,000 a year without buying stock, without doing insider trading, and not only doing that, trying to stop everybody else in Congress from doing it as well. I can live on $172,000 just fine. I can budget $172,000, and that's actually would be more money than I've ever seen, so I won't have any incentive to take any more. I think there's a good portion of people out there who listen to me saying beat money in politics, and they think that I'm talking crazy. Meanwhile, they're all being distracted, chasing everything that pops up, not actually focusing on the problem. We need to focus on the problem. I'm the only one here trying to focus on the actual problem, which is money in politics. So if you want to reject the premise that the political system means anything to you or is even trying to help you, we need to focus a little bit, get down here and sign my petition, and we're going to have a grand old time beating money in politics. Sometimes people will ask me, what's your platform? And I will say, my platform is to get money out of politics, and the only way that we can do that is that we must first beat money in politics. And so I'm not raising any money from anybody. I don't have any special interest telling me what to do. You can trust what I'm saying because of that, because I have an incentive to give the people of my home the best representation I can possibly give them. And they'll say, okay, that's good, but what is your platform? What are the other things that you believe in? And I say, well, it doesn't really matter what I believe in while money in politics is in the way. So we can't deal with any of our problems at all until we deal with the problem that ruins absolutely everything. And that problem is money in politics. Did you notice how during Biden's term that the Democratic Party did absolutely nothing to deal with the existential threat that would be another Trump term. In fact, they didn't even run anybody who could possibly win, and they did it in the worst possible way after the worst possible PR disaster a political party could ever have, and we're not even really allowed to talk about it in most places. You ever wonder why that is? You ever wonder why the Democratic Party never helped us protect ourselves from this? You ever notice how nobody is helping protect us from this misapplication of this AI and this proliferation of all these data centers? If you want someone who will actually help you, you're going to have to help me. So come and sign my petition. Let's beat money in politics. One of the biggest insults you could tell somebody is that you think that they are not good enough to be in Congress. It's like, have you thought about how rude that is? I mean, it's like, it's pretty messed up. It's like the worst insult you could give somebody is that you don't think they're good enough to be in Congress, in the U.S. Congress. That's the worst thing you could tell somebody. I have some, like, you know, mortal enemies. You know, I have some nemesis, if you will. I would not say that about any of them. That is terrible. That is the worst thing you could say about somebody, and yet we still play the game. Why do we play this game? Some people still don't seem to get that I don't have a political party, or they don't seem to get that a person could, like, not have a political party. But I don't have a political party. The reason is I don't like the Republicans. They lie to good and decent people into voting against their own best interest. They go and sell these people's votes. So many people that I love, my entire family, they're all Republicans. They're constantly getting screwed by Republicans. Can't seem to grow out of getting screwed out of Republicans, because what they see on the other side of the Democrats is some sort of, like, horror show propped up to them by the Republicans. But if you look at the Democrats, they're no better. They're there just to make good and decent people waste all their effort in what is intentionally a failing venture. They're both so below standard that I couldn't never support either one of them.
Well, ain't you tired of the crooks and liars ruining every damn thing? Well, don't you worry, but we need to hurry up and sign this thing. It's a petition for a race against money, and when we win, it'll be really damn funny. So find me there at Old Town Square. Together we can beat money.
Have you noticed how our political language means absolutely nothing? And the only political language that is allowed to be mainstream and reinforced being mainstream through the media, through social media, through pundits, through everybody with a vested stake in us believing that the system that we have is in any way functional and not entirely non-functional because of the corrupting influence of money in politics. That, you know, for example, you have left versus right. Everything is put on a left versus right paradigm. Well, what does that mean? It means absolutely nothing for America in 2026 because it's based on a seating arrangement for a foreign country from over 200 years ago. So I don't quite understand how that applies to modern America in the year 2026. You also have this stuff where it's like Democrat or Republican, red versus blue, but it's all the same thing. It's all a distraction from us talking about what would be the true political theory. It is good policy versus the corrupting influence of money in politics.
I've always believed, as I'm sure you have, that the people that we choose to represent us should be the people with the best intentions and the best ideas, not just some scammers who are going to tell us whatever we need to hear so they can disappoint us again. That's why I have been very happy with the overwhelmingly positive response that the No Money campaign has received, because it has what is obviously the best idea in the history of American politics. That is to beat money in politics. Now, beating money in politics is not a small obstacle to overcome. In fact, it's the biggest one we face, and that's what makes it so fun. And as we overcome this obstacle, we will overcome other obstacles put in our place by the same people who corrupt our politics. It is something that we can absolutely do. It is not impossible. In the process, as long as we don't lose focus, we will remember who we are and we will come together stronger as a community. If we will this, it is no dream, and Wichita will once again shock the world.
My friend is really excited about AI, and he wanted to show me all this stuff that he was doing, and he showed me some of these like weird pictures and this like generated text that was, you know, not so great. And I was like, hey, aren't you worried about being replaced by AI? And I'll never forget what he said to me, which was, why would you think that just because I don't like the fact that Elon spent $250 million on the Trump campaign on the way to him becoming a trillionaire, mostly because of salesmanship and financial literacy, but also that I have a problem with all of the money raised and spent by Kamala's campaign? I think this is the purpose of competing ideologies and the caricatures of them so prominently crammed into our faces and into our minds by whatever media we consume, is to make the concept of having a principle an impossibility in most people's minds. It's okay to have principles. It's okay to want to beat money in politics. It's okay to focus on the problem. I know a guy who is really into AI, and he uses AI to read for him and to write for him and to make his pictures and to respond to his emails and all this stuff. And I said to him, hey, aren't you worried that AI is going to replace you? And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said,
Beat money with the no money campaign.
out after work again, and my ass is kicked. You know, they say that you can't run a political campaign with no money, taking no money, part-time while you work full-time. And you know what? They may be right. But I'm still going to do it anyway. So if you want to beat money in politics, come on out to Old Town Square and sign my petition to get on the ballot. This guy who works with people with mental health crises told me that when people start hearing voices in their head, that those voices are typically negative, they're pessimistic, they're very judgmental. And he said it's very much a cultural thing. And so I asked him later, are you saying that, if it's a cultural thing, that the voices in other people's heads in other cultures are different? And he said, yeah, in a lot of places, they're very positive. Like most places, they think it's their ancestors trying to give them good advice. But the negative, pessimistic attitude is specific to America, and I think that's really sad. I think we should try to have a culture where the voices in our heads are a little more positive.